Scent and fragrance, the perfume that you decide to adorn yourself with, or what you choose as your own signature scent, truly is an emotional journey. It is an extension of you. It is a part of who you are. And most of the time, the scent, the notes that you tend to be gravitating towards have to do a lot with what is nostalgic to you, what has shaped you, your experiences, the people that have come and go in your life. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how scent transforms you. It triggers you. Some of the main topics that I'm going to be talking about is how scent is memory, how your palate can change, and some studies that back that up, getting into character and how the ideal person that you have up here can be shaped and guided for you with the perfume that you decide, and choosing your own signature scent in that way, and talking about my own personal journey as well of how scent, as cheesy as it sounds, can help you find yourself, and it can heal you, it can help you grieve. And just a trigger warning, I will be touching upon very vaguely about mental health and grief as well. So your favorite scents truly do date back to childhood memories, nostalgia, and then it grows with you based off of the different experiences that you have in your life. Good memories, bad memories, different travels and experiences that you have all shape this association. There was this article from Elle magazine, and one of my favorite quotes was, "Can bad memories change the way you feel about your favorite fragrance?" The end of this paragraph here, she states that I'm looking at an aromatic soundtrack of my life. And I love that, because just like you can have a musical soundtrack to your life where certain music brings you back to your childhood, brings you back to your first love, can bring you back to these wonderful memories, so can scent. Scent can bring you back to your favorite travel that you've ever had. It can bring you back to a memory of your mom or your grandma, or it can also bring back upon bad memories. Psychologist and assistant professor at the Department of University of Dayton quotes, "Making a change mentally gives us the power and impacts our emotions. If you go through a breakup, the last thing you want to do is smell something that makes you feel sad. Switching your perfume is easy. It helps you manage your emotions, lets you stay away from old memories, and allows you to create new ones." Your mental health actually can have a huge impact on your preference in smell, or just anything that you're going through in life. If you're going through a very stressful part of your life, different things trigger you. So that includes smell and fragrance. An article from the University of Pittsburgh states that smell is heavily tied to the hippocampus and the amygdala, the brain's emotional and memory center. So when depressed or at a low point in your life, your brain can naturally long for comfort, nostalgia. You might find yourself gravitating towards specific scents like vanilla, lavender, or old perfume. And this is because your brain is unconsciously linking those to a time and place where you felt safe and happy. All right, I'm gonna get a little vulnerable here. So just to give you an idea, for most of my life, I have always gravitated towards scents that are very fresh. My favorite smell is the typical laundry, linen, freshly out of the shower type of smells. And I didn't really get into perfume until maybe my mid to late 20s, and even recently now. So for the most part, most of the scents that I gravitated towards was just truly just smelling like my shampoo and conditioner. Started venturing into what kind of perfume I want to adorn myself with. I did gravitate towards these light florals, things that would be advertised as green, fresh, natural. And my friends would always just say I smell very floral. I have never really gravitated towards gourmands just because they're quite heavy, and I also think I'm a little nose blind to vanilla scents. I just don't pick it up. Around last year, maybe the past two-ish years, I noticed that I was just going through a low point in my life mentally. There was a lot of things that were kind of happening back to back to back. And sometime last year, and it was around when my grandma passed, and other things were piling up, I started to wear vanillas obsessively. There was this line that came out at Bath and Body Works, and it was the Milk Bar collaboration, and they had scents like salted pretzel. It was like a salted pretzel scent. Wait, hold on. The cinnamon sugar pretzel cookie. Yeah, bought them in bulk. And I'm not proud of that. And it makes sense. And it's so interesting that there's like actual studies that back this up. So not only was I missing my grandma, but my grandma used to work at Auntie Anne's. So whenever I smell pretzels or like that, have that like cinnamony smell, I do actually think of her, as well as other scents. But I think that's why I started obsessively wanting and craving these heavy vanillas and gourmands that I usually was not attracted to. And that was like more of a subconscious thing as well. I didn't actually notice that change in my life. It was actually other people. So my best friend, she saw me applying this lotion on and she was so confused and she was like, "Are you okay?" I do want to emphasize that if you like gourmands and vanillas, there's nothing wrong with you. It was more so the act of me having this drastic change of having this strong preference for soapy, fresh smells, and then all of a sudden, I want to smell like cake. When you're going through a lot of high stress or grief or both, how it can actually heavily change your preferences in a lot of things, including smell. So just like the excerpt that I read at the beginning where how perfume, the ones that are associated with bad memories, you can just take it out of your life and it can help you on your own personal journey. Also, introducing yourself to new perfumes can also help you pave the pathway to your new life. So as I was getting out of this gourmand journey and essentially going back to what I love, which is like the soapy, fresh scents, in some interesting way, some of these gourmand notes actually are notes that I still look for. So for example, D. Gray has a perfume called Dispelled, and it is a black tea scent. And it is, I would say this is more of my fall scent, but it is this beautiful mix of, it smells like you're having high tea and you have cookies, and it's not like an ooey gooey cookie, but it is like the kind of cookies that you would have at a high tea ceremony. And it's a little autumnal. It's like dipping cookies in a London fog, and it is very yummy. Also, because of my gourmand journey, I was introduced to Sesame Shower by Concreted, and just like Dispelled, it is like that tea cookie smell. It also has like a slight chocolate chip smell, but it's not an ooey gooey gourmand. It's interesting. It's actually kind of fresh, and when it settles onto my skin, it settles into this very light floral smell. And I also now have a happy association with this because this is the perfume that I wore as I was moving into my new home. So now as I feel like I am getting more in tune with what I feel happiest in and like what I prefer in terms of fragrance, I am gravitating towards like fresh scents again, smells that smell like you just like stepped out of the shower, with some slight gourmand notes. So Nearly Noon by Define Me is actually a fig rice pudding smell, but there's something about it that smells like freshly shampooed hair, and your hair's tousled and you've been like rolling around in bed, and it kind of just smells like fresh linens, but also there's something milky, and I love fig notes because although fig is a fruity smell, there's something kind of animalistic about the smell of fig in a perfume. And very, very recently I went to Chicago, and it was a very good solo trip. I also got to see my best friend, and now I have a happy association with Chicago and solo trips. And I now associate it with Brine & Bone from Petals and Poison. And Brine & Bone, I feel like it has like the fresh aquatic notes that I have always felt at home in and always feel like they're the truest to me. But it's interesting because now I feel myself gravitating towards woodier smells, sandalwood, and I think it's just like craving this slight heavier, more mature note. And I love mixing Brine & Bone by Petals and Poison with Orpheon. And Orpheon is it's by Diptyque, and it has the florals that I have always gravitated towards, like, I think jasmine. But also there is this undertone of smoke that I have never been attracted to, but now it has like not a heavy tobacco smell smoke, but it's like the smell of, and I quote another Melissa, so she's Beware of Pity, and I think she describes Orpheon as like a freshly blown out candle, like that kind of smell. So that's my long-winded journey of my own personal aromatic soundtrack, and how I'm excited to actually see what other scents and fragrances that I discover and I feel like I identify with more so. So many of you on Instagram have been so kind enough to share your own stories and to share your own personal experience of how perfume and scent is emotional to you. My friend Peyton did share with me, she said that she did notice there was like a shift in her own personal taste in fragrance, and that when she was younger, like in her teens, early 20s, she really loved like bright fruity florals. And after her parents' divorce and other life events happening, she started to gravitate more towards more mature smells. She sent me a picture of what she is currently wearing. I just love this idea of how perfume can grow with you as you shape your own signature style and your own personal identity. My friend Janae of Petals and Poison, we were talking the other day about perfume, and we were talking about how at the beginning of her journey of Petals and Poison, her brand, a lot of her perfumes had a lot of gourmand notes, a lot of powdery notes. And if you're familiar with my Dark Muse system, her perfumes heavily was in the haunted doll section, where it was tea cookies, tea parties, powdery, soft and light. But recently we're talking about how she has been gravitating more towards witch perfumes, which is fresh, herbally, would be advertised as green. And I asked her why that is. And it's so interesting. So she states that, I think realistically, the scents I love creating will still have something haunted or antique lingering in them. That part of the haunted doll core never really left. But once I started working with pure, higher end materials, my taste shifted a lot. I began realizing how many modern fragrances share a similar underlying DNA. And that's what I love, like truly love about Janae's perfumes, is that there is a strong storytelling element to it. I think I will always just have a soft spot for anything style or fragrance related when there is a story related to it. I mean it when I say good style is good storytelling, and that extends to fragrance and perfume because there is this artistry to it. Very fascinating that Janae's taste in perfume changed based off of her learning more about the different notes and accords and ingredients that go into perfume. So that ties in with identity and shifting your identity and growing as a person, of how your taste in perfume is going to change as you change and grow as a person. Let's say you're growing as a person and you have this idea, you have your own style muses, you have this idea of a signature look that you are going towards. So I think that almost ties in with how some actors, instead of method acting, they actually use fragrance to get into character. Famous perfumer who usually works with Helena Bonham Carter, I believe her name is Zizi Glasser. So she has worked with Helena Bonham Carter to wear perfume, she made perfumes that were aligned with the characters that Helena was playing. So for example, in Dark Shadows, she created a perfume that smells of bourbon, whiskey, and cigarettes. And that was to cultivate the character of this chain-smoking alcoholic psychiatrist that she was playing in Dark Shadows. Or in Alice in Wonderland, the perfume that she created for her here is chocolate, chili, cracked soap, and what she quotes, a pissy note. The movie The Bride, Heretic actually did like a true collaboration with the movie, and this is actually what she wore on set, and I think that's so interesting because I love it. I love how the smell of this actually does align with the character portrayed in The Bride. Okay, so whenever you think of like the Bride of Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster and the lore in general, you're going to think the undead. You're going to think literally flesh decaying, and then probably something smoky based off of like the original lore of Frankenstein. So the scent is called Till Death. Also, look how cool it is. It comes with a mirror, and it's a solid perfume. And if you're into darker aesthetics, which you might be because you found me for a reason. And if you're into darker aesthetics, I have a archetype system that I created. I have a whole playlist on it. Most of my videos are about it. But the purpose of the Dark Muse system is to essentially find inspiration as you are delving into darker styles and you want to add a darker element to your own style without having to rely on celebrities, and more so relying on the idea of these 5 entities or archetypes. And it is vampire, witch or warlock if you are more into masculine styles, siren, haunted doll, and fairy or the fae. And if you are interested in delving into those notes and what fragrances I would recommend, I did a long deep dive into that in a previous video. I always forget to advertise this. I have a Patreon. So what I do, the way I script my videos is a series of mood boards, and if you're a Patreon member, you essentially get my script prior to me uploading the video. If you watch this whole video, thank you so much. If you have stayed along this journey, even during my super long break, I'm very grateful for you. And if you're new here, hi, welcome. I'm back. I plan on making content. I do miss the process of making videos and just having like these conversations and topics and just having I don't know, I'm just very grateful that I even have a platform to delve into these types of topics that allow me to essentially share what I learn and what I think is very fascinating to do deep dives into about style, the psychology of it, and how to make personal style feel personal again. I hope you have a great week, and until next time, bye.